Hello everyone, you are watching the 10th video of Genesis in a Bible study video series. In this video, we will go through Genesis chapter 9, verses 18 through 29. Beginning in verse 18 it says, "And the sons of Noah that went forth from the ark were Shem, and Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and of these was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine, and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. Even though Canaan's name looks like it should be pronounced Canaan, it's commonly pronounced like the name Cain. Pronouncing Canaan's name like Cain's name is slightly misleading, because Canaan and Cain were two completely unrelated people, and, according to Strong's work, the two names sound different in Hebrew. However, the problem with trying to pronounce Canaan's name correctly is no one will know who you're referring to, especially when you mention the Canaanites. Strong says Canaan's name means, quote, humiliated. It's likely that Canaan was named because of the events that this chapter mentions. Either Canaan was already born by the time of these events, and was either still unnamed, or soon renamed, or he wasn't born yet, maybe being in the womb, or maybe not even yet conceived. Whatever the case was, his name's connection to these events seems to be pointed to in verses 18, 22, and 25 through 27. The fact that he's even mentioned here, even though he's not the firstborn, according to Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, seems to make it more clear that he was young at that time, soon to be born, or possibly Ham's favorite son. Ham would have been a logical candidate for Noah to curse, because he was the one whom Noah was infuriated with. Ham's firstborn would have been a logical candidate, because he was the one who would get the best blessing and inheritance from his father. And Ham's youngest, soon to be born, or favorite would be a logical candidate, because the curse would have dampened Ham's joy. The word translated as nakedness in verse 22 means nudity, literally or figuratively disgrace, blemish. This word is not the same as Canaan's name, but it may have something to do with why he was named what he was. Strong says this about the word translated as told in verse 22. A primitive root. Properly to front, i.e., stand boldly out opposite, by implication, causatively, to manifest, figuratively, to announce, always by word of mouth to one present, specifically, to expose, predict, explain, praise. Instead of covering his father, or simply telling his two brothers discreetly not to enter the tent, he told his two brothers that he saw their father naked, possibly even saying what he saw. If this is true, Noah's curse on Ham's son Canaan, which we'll read about next, may not have been because Ham saw Noah's nakedness, but because he shamed his father by his action and or inaction concerning his nakedness. Continuing on in verse 24 it says, "And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his youngest son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." Whether Noah woke up immediately after his two sons covered him, while they are still in the tent, or woke up at an unspecified time after that, The fact that he knew what had happened and who it was seems to hint that Ham had shown disrespect to his father before. Maybe Ham and Noah had a difficult, rocky relationship. Don't forget that Ham had a wife at this point. It seems like Shem was the oldest son. Ham may have been the second oldest, and Japheth may have been the youngest. Ham probably cannot be considered the oldest, because in verse 24 it says that Ham was the, quote, youngest son, or, according to the ASV footnotes, the, quote, younger son. I should probably also mention that the word translated as youngest may, though unlikely, not be referring to Ham's age. Strong says this about the word. Abbreviated, i.e. diminutive, literally in quantity, size, or number, or figuratively in age or importance. After Ham's son Canaan is cursed, Shem is blessed first. And Shem seems to get the better blessing, if in nothing else than that Japheth will, quote, dwell in the tents of Shem, which implies that Shem would have enough to support his brother and himself. Another important point that should be made is that every time Shem, Ham, and Japheth are mentioned together, their names are found in the same order. See Genesis chapter 5, verse 32, chapter 6, verse 10, chapter 7, verse 13, chapter 9, verse 18, and chapter 10, verse 1. I'll let you look those verses up yourself. The only thing that seems it could go against this idea, the birth order of Noah's sons being Shem, Ham, and then Japheth, would be Genesis chapter 10, verse 21, according to the King James Version. I'll quickly mention chapter 10, verse 21 in the next video, because I think the ASV's translation makes more sense when you look at the context. I just gave you a lot of information. If you want to, look it up yourself and verify what I just said. I don't believe I left anything out. Continuing on in verse 28 it says, And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Noah was likely the longest living person who lived after the flood. Of course, the fact that he only lived 350 years after the flood may be an important detail worth noting. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more like it. You can also watch videos from this Bible study series and leave a comment on my website, which is www.dinaglos.com.